In the world of architecture, color, texture, and movement are topics you can never divorce in design, and that's what this week's show is all about. My name is Njiru. This is the Ideal Space TV show. Karibu.
Transform your existing roof space into a room of endless possibilities. Turn it into a bedroom, a study, or a lounge with the amazing roof window from Classic Moldings.
Is a place where workers get connected to other people and to the organization, and at the same time geared towards focusing in bringing out the very best in productivity. This week we explored hues and textures very rarely used at the workplace. Wow! This is an ideal space for work.
I told you, we not only make ideal spaces to live in, but also ideal spaces to work. What you're seeing here, this is Pietra.
Pietra effect.
Pietra effect. And to be honest with you, this was made just for this space. We've never done something like this before. This was the first time we were doing this texture. It looks more like leather that is overlapping, or a natural stone that is so old, and through volcanic effect, it has different layers. As you can see, from one layer goes into another layer, then goes into another layer, and it was just tailor-made for this space. And
tailor-made for the client?
For the client, yes. And what we've done here, looking at Carlson Wagon Travel, the name alone gives you a very interesting feel, like, you know, wagon. You know,
there's a lot of movement with this effect. What effect did you call it? Because
it's Pietra.
Pietra.
Yeah, this is Pietra. And with Pietra, you can achieve different colors. And going with their colors now, that's why we have it in this specific color. And looking at it also, we have done dry board ceiling. All right. And with the dry board ceiling, we tried also to rhyme in with their logo. And with what you can see here now, also playing around with the lighting because of the ambience and all that. Then we've turned it or converted it from an empty floor to what you're seeing now. That is from, all this is dry board. You see the ceiling? You can see the first ceiling. Then there's a step with a nice, interesting detail with the light. Then you step down. All this we've done. Then this partitioning in here to give people more like private space to work from. You know,
are those windows accidental?
I mean, no, they're not.
What's the driving philosophy there?
The whole thing is just trying to incorporate interesting design elements with it's something that is active, something that is also, apart from being a design element, also you wanted it to be functional also. So these are nice windows letting in the light that's office, and yet again you have special paints on it. This is Terra sponged effect.
Terra sponged effect.
Very subtle, but also very interesting.
Now,
all this is dry board partitioning that we've done here, and as you can see, it has a texture also. This special paint again. This is Terra sponge. Then it's a very special coat, because with it also you don't have to struggle with things like that. So we were very confident when we were choosing. And then look at the colors also, the way the harmony of the colors in here, the way we are combining the colors.
Right.
And something else, I don't know whether you've noticed it, is the door surrounds.
That's another type of molding.
That's another type of molding supplied by Classic Moldings. So with this kind of surrounds, it gives you details. Gives a very interesting detailing on the doors.
Frame of sorts.
Exactly. And you can see the whole unity together now. So we've done a door surround right? We have the special paint coming all the way to the door surround.
Right.
Then we move into the main frame of the door.
Right.
All right. Then here we have something that we are always fighting, but here it's a design element. Rust.
Rust.
You know, rust is something we fight every day. You don't want your stuff to rust. But in design, in fact, it's an element we use a lot for designing. So all the doors here, these are rust on effect.
Rust tone.
Yeah, it's a rust tone effect. And what we've done with it now is we've recreated the real rust, all right? Then we've put a special coat on it so that it doesn't rub off on you.
So we've established the dry board partitioning.
Yes.
Pietra effect.
Yes.
What is that?
Now, this is something new altogether. This is called Zephyro. Zephyro has that illusion of like sand in the wind, you know? And with Zephyro, it's a metallic finish. And like you can see here, it's diagonal. It's just going around the column. And with this kind of a finish now, it gives you that gold finish, or you can have it in silver finish. And being metallic also, you can be able to wipe, so you don't struggle with that. And with all these special paints, like I told you the other day, most of them up to 30 years, you don't have to do anything on it.
Right.
It remains the same color, it doesn't change color, and you can wipe if there's dirt on it, unless it tires you and you want to completely remove and put something else, of which now there we can help you with different components on how to do it. You don't have to really scrub it off. We can be able to advance it for you and change color without having to really like fight with
What's the origin? Where is the origin of Zephyro? So
Zephyro is Italian. He is Italian.
Same place as Caravaggio?
Yes, same as Caravaggio. No, Pietra is different. It's from a different place. Yeah.
So you're combining different parts of the world in a travel office.
That's what classic moldings does for you. We do, in fact, we go to the ends of the world for some of these materials. We really research, we really travel to be able to give a client what we give. The boardroom, here we are. And look at the color combinations here, because here we are lucky to have them close to one another. Starting from here, this is one of the effects we did that I really fell in love with. You know, this is tree bark effect. It's very interesting effect because it gives you that rustic look, very ancient, you know, like something that has been here in existence for many years. And these are some of the advantages with special paint. You can be able to recreate a past moment. That's the beauty of it, because you're controlling it.
What effect is this?
This is a tree bark effect. And the material is called Terra. And the color, you can see it's very warm also. Then we've done the dry board ceiling. All right. And if you look here, you can see like the ceiling is an inverted image of what it's down here.
Right.
That was what we are trying to achieve, so that you feel the unity of the floor and the furniture in here all the way to the ceiling. Then apart from that now is we have also gone ahead and with this space and installed the molding. And like I said, now with the classic moldings, the molding gives you a very nice finish on the edge where the wall meets the dry board ceiling.
The wall meets the dry board ceiling?
Yes.
Absolutely.
So you get now a very even and a straight line, you know, and the detail. So it gives you a very interesting feel.
Very, very cozy for working.
Exactly.
And attaining the performance that your boss would expect of you.
Exactly.
But fine. We've gone through the boardroom, the reception, the working area. Where does the boss sit?
Oh, it's a space. It's a space, I'll tell you, Tim, I would desire to work in. You know.
Please show me.
Let me show you the boss's. And you've seen this table with all the PowerPoints incorporated into the table, just trying to make life easy for people. When you're doing your, you can power your laptop from there. Makes life quite easy, you know.
I really want to see where the boss sits.
Come.
What sort of texture?
Come. I'll show you. Here we are, Tim.
Right.
You know, this is the boss's office. And as you can see, we worked with a different material that you've not met before there. This is called Caravaggio. You're sitting in the boss's chair. You want to feel like the boss.
I think this is the ideal for me to work.
And it's a corner office. Look at the views. The forest, the other side, and it's an amazing space.
So given by what has been presented here today, the ideal space for work is that we're seeing a lot of north and south, and basically just a lot from the north and south Europe in one place.
Yes.
Bits of African, Indian
bit of African, throw in the Caravaggio, which is Italian, you know, and Spain, here it comes again with the wall covering. And it's all about, what I would tell you, design team, it's all about combining different elements and making sure they're not in fight with one another. There's harmony in everything. If you look around this office, look at these windows here. Can you see how the windows are going? It's a wave, you know, and the same wave, you can see it on the ceiling here. You can see the same wave. So it's all about combining different elements, but in a nice way that they're working together, because when you look at their logo, you get the same wave again. So it's, I would say it's all about putting different aspects together and allowing you to experience now. That experience and the contrast is the feel-good mood you're experiencing right now.
Speaking of feel-good mood, that means you've got great output from your colleagues, great output from the people who are working with you.
We are a big team at Classic Moldings. We have the designers, we have the fundis who do the actual work on site. Then apart from that, now we have excellent bosses who are real team players in this. And also we have support team, all right? And all these people, we are working all of us together. So we have guys now always on site. We have guys who are in the office coordinating all this. And to be honest with your team, that's how we are able to deliver quality work at without meeting the deadlines, without delays, without, you know, if we tell you we're delivering this, be sure we will.
I want this. I want this office right away. But what I'm going to do is replace all these pictures and put my picture and say, this is my ideal space.
Yeah, you want this to be your ideal. It's such a lovely office. It's such a lovely office. And here we are.
Thanks for that one. That's something.
Welcome.
Cool.
Call us, we'll do your house.
About 10 kilometers away from the hustle and bustle of Kenya's capital city, Nairobi, the current suburb is no doubt a place of serenity and beauty. It's also the place where our grand property stands, a historic building that was once the centerpiece of a farm at the foot of Ngong Hills and owned by the famous Danish author Baroness Karen Blixen. Built in 1922 by Swedish civil engineer Ake Sjögren, Karen and her husband von Blixen bought the house in 1917, and it became the farmhouse for their 4,500-acre farm, of which 600 acres was used for coffee farming. The building embodies the distinctive characteristics of its type, period, and method of construction. The house's architecture is typical of the late 19th century bungalow architecture, including spacious rooms, horizontal layout verandas, tiled roof and stone construction, typical of scores of residences built throughout European suburbs of Nairobi in the early decades. Karen Blixen called the house Bogani or Mbogani, meaning a house in the woods, and served as a place of interaction where many people of varied backgrounds, the royalty, African chiefs and local people were entertained. This is a famous veranda that provided Karen with a magnificent view of the Ngong Hills, with their unique formation which resembles the knuckles of a human hand.
The uniqueness of this house is the architecture that was employed, because it was employed actually, I mean, it was imported from Sweden. You can see it's quite spacious. The verandas, there's a lot of room, and the veranda covers half of the house. In fact, even the stones that were used, they're actually quite large. Inside the house, it has high ceilings to make it cool, because now for people who are coming from Europe, they were concerned about the heat, so the ceilings had to be high. The ceilings also in most of the rooms, especially the living room, is actually open. Very heavy wood paneling, perhaps because there was plenty of wood. The wood is also natural. This was actually African mahogany. It has very many windows, very many doors. Security was not an issue. It has 4 external doors. I think that is really quite unusual to have 4 external doors in a building. A lot of nature was also involved in, because there was very little painting done. As we can see, actually, the whole of outside, apart from the ceiling, everything is natural stone, unlike the buildings of today. The red tiles, again, this was clay tiles. It was constructed from available natural materials. Most houses would have maybe 1 fireplace in the living room, but this one had 2 fireplaces, sharing 1 chimney, which I think is quite a unique feature. We still use that chimney up to today.
I had a farm in Africa at the foot of the Ngong Hills.
The house served as a setting and basis of her well-known book, Out of Africa, and gained international fame with the release of the movie Out of Africa in 1985, an Oscar award-winning film based on Karen Blixen autobiography, where Karen was played by Meryl Streep. There is no doubt that the house was a design masterpiece at that period in the history of Kenya. Karen Blixen occupied the house from 1917 until 1931, when she finally left Kenya for her native Denmark. The house was turned into the Karen Blixen Museum in 1986 under the National Museums of Kenya, and is providing a backdrop of life in colonial Kenya among the elite of the time. Today, the Nairobi suburb that stands on the land where Karen farmed coffee is a high-end residential area and is named after Karen. Located about 10 kilometers away from the hustle and bustle of Kenya's capital city, Nairobi, the Karen suburb is no doubt a place of serenity and beauty. It's also the place where our grand property stands, a historic building that was once the centerpiece of a farm at the foot of Ngong Hills and owned by the famous Danish author Baroness Karen Blixen. Built in 1922 by Swedish civil engineer Ake Sjögren, Karen and her husband von Blixen bought the house in 1917, and it became the farmhouse for their 4,500-acre farm, of which 600 acres was used for coffee farming. The building embodies the distinctive characteristics of its type, period, and method of construction. The house's architecture is typical of the late 19th century bungalow architecture, including spacious rooms, horizontal layout verandas, tile roof and stone construction, typical of scores of residences built throughout European suburbs of Nairobi in the early decades. Karen Blixen called the house Bogani or Mbogani, meaning a house in the woods, and served as a place of interaction where many people of varied backgrounds, the royalty, African chiefs and local people were entertained. This is a famous veranda that provided Karen with a magnificent view of the Ngong Hills, with their unique formation which resembles the knuckles of a human hand.
The uniqueness of this house is the architecture that was employed, because it was employed actually, it was imported from Sweden. You can see it's quite spacious. The verandas, there's a lot of room, and the veranda covers half of the house. In fact, even the stones that were used, they're actually quite large. Inside the house, it has high ceilings to make it cool, because now for people who are coming from Europe, they were concerned about the heat, so the ceilings had to be high. The ceilings also in most of the rooms, especially the living room, is actually open. Very heavy wood paneling, perhaps because there was plenty of wood. The wood is also natural. This was actually African mahogany. It has very many windows, very many doors. Security was not an issue. It has 4 external doors. I think that is really quite unusual to have 4 external doors in a building. A lot of nature was also involved in it. There was very little painting done. As we can see, actually, the whole of outside, apart from the ceiling, everything is natural stone. Unlike the buildings of today, the red tiles, again, this was clay tiles. It was constructed from available natural materials. Most houses would have maybe 1 fireplace in the living room, but this one had 2 fireplaces, sharing 1 chimney, which I think is quite a unique feature. We still use that chimney up to today.
I had a farm in Africa at the foot of the Ngong Hills.
The house served as a setting and basis of her well-known book, Out of Africa, and gained international fame with the release of the movie Out of Africa in 1985, an Oscar award-winning film based on Karen Blixen autobiography where Karen was played by Meryl Streep. There is no doubt that the house was a design masterpiece at that period in the history of Kenya. Karen Blixen occupied the house from 1917 until 1931 when she finally left Kenya for her native Denmark. The house was turned into the Karen Blixen Museum in 1986 under the National Museums of Kenya and is providing a backdrop of life in colonial Kenya among the elite of the time. Today, the Nairobi suburb that stands on the land where Karen farmed coffee is a high-end residential area and is named after Karen. The fashion and design segment in association with Crown Paints. If you like it, crown it.
Rough and Tough is another textured feature that Crown does. It's a cement-based texture finish, which once again is an exterior, but it's all about bringing the inside out and the outside in. So Rough and Tough is very popular with interior designers for feature walls. The good thing about Rough and Tough compared to the Crown variation and the creation is that it can be produced as to your liking. It can be made from any of the 3,000 available shades in the Crown color chart and the color shade card. And you could create an entire room space just using Rough and Tough because you've got different application methods which give you different pattern. So you could ideally have a Rough and Tough which has horizontal lines as a feature and the rest of the Rough and Tough walls with a feather-like sort of a texture, and then they can be differentiated with the paints on top. You could use contrasting paints, you could use paints of the same color to just bring out different textures and different patterns in Rough and Tough. Rough and Tough can be featured ideally anywhere within your home space depending on the pattern that you choose and the color that you choose to apply over it. Ideally, Rough and Tough is suitable for spaces that are more public rather than more private, only because you want this texture to be appreciated, you want it to be seen, you want it, people to notice that you have it in parts of your house. Ideally, Rough and Tough is suitable for entertainment areas where maybe you have a bar of your own within your house, within your restaurant. You could have it as a feature wall for the reception, for the bar area, for your living room, a family room, a little lounge that you're trying to create, because there's very, very many patterns. There's patterns that could come across as playful, and there's patterns that could come across as very formal. Therefore, you could even have it in your boardroom or your office space, forming a feature wall in there. Rough and Tough is ideal for the fact that you can have wall mountings. You could have lights mounted on it. You could have photo frames mounted on it. You can, again, like variation, create pattern with Rough and Tough. You can do a brick effect. You could do any sort of thing, just you have to work around masking the area in terms of shape and pattern and sizing, and then work out on scale, because at a 1-to-1 scale, these patterns are very different as they would appear on a photographic image, because you've got to see the proportion of the room and then go with the pattern. If you've got a very small room, to have large vertical lines on your rough and tough may be something ideal depending on what you're trying to achieve as the homeowner or as an individual of the space.
The Fashion and Design segment in association with Crown Paints. If you like it, crown it. In our world, we cannot ignore the fact that design of shape, color, and texture are the key elements that influence the spaces we either live, work, and play. And on that thought, we wind up this week's edition of The Ideal Space. I've been your host, Njiru. Share with us your thoughts, suggestions, and ideas. The address to use is on your screen. We see you again next week. Bye for now.